I teach new letters of the alphabet, I want to make sure that I'm also teaching blending and segmenting with the letters. And for many of our kindergartners, they might not have that skill yet to do on their own. In other words, they might not be able to take the word cat and break it up into its sound parts, k, a, t. And they might not be able to see the letters or even just hear the sounds, k, a, t, and blend it together to be cat. But I start modeling that right off the bat. Even when I only have 3 letters that I've taught, I show them how we can make words using those 3 letters. So now we have all these letters. So I just wanted to show you, it's part of my routine every day with my kindergarten students. So as a visual drill, it can be as simple as you have the letters on the board that you have taught, and they just go as quick as they can. A, b, k, f, I, l, m, p, s, t. I did that really quick, but they actually do get pretty quick, and I make sure I do that every day, often more than once a day, because I want them to be automatic with the sounds. So that is a visual drill, because we're not blending anything together, we're not spelling anything, we're just seeing the letter and identifying the sound as quickly as we can. And as a auditory drill, you can do the opposite. So I might say, which letter can spell the sound? And so they would find it and they would pull it down. And then we would say, the letter H can spell. So I'm saying the letter name, I'm repeating the sound again, and then we put it back up. And you can add something like have them trace it on their boards or skywrite it. So auditory drill, visual drill. So now with encoding, I always do encoding first. I'm gonna pick a word that uses only these letters. I'm not gonna go outside of these letters because I want that success rate there. So I might say a word like lip. So I'm gonna say the word, my students are gonna repeat it, lip. We're gonna stretch it first, because often kindergarten students, before they can segment, they can at least stretch it. So I always say stretch the sounds that can be stretched. And every word has a vowel, and all vowels can stretch. In the word lip, luckily, that first letter L can be stretched, and that's helpful. So we would stretch the word lip. And then I'm gonna, then I tell them that these magnets represent sounds. The colors do not matter for the magnets. You can mix them up, it doesn't matter. They represent sounds. And sometimes you can even make a big deal of like, oop, I'm putting sound into those magnets. So they each represent a sound. So we have lip, and I do it first because the students I have right now cannot segment on their own yet. They're getting better though. So I'll say lip, l, I, p, lip, your turn. And then I'll have my board, and they're gonna be pointing to their magnets because they have this on their board. Each student has a board just like this. I'm gonna say, ready? Lip, l, I, p. So they're copying me. And what that's doing is they're hearing it, then they're able to do it, and soon they're gonna be able to do it on their own. So now that we've said the sounds, now I'm gonna say, okay, now let's go back and match the letters of the sounds. Which one of these letters can spell ul? That was our first one, ul. Or I might say, because that first sound is kind of that, they can usually hear that, I might say, what was that first sound again in the lip? And they'll say ul, and I'll say, okay, tap, this magnet says ul. Now let's find the letter that can spell ul. So then they'll all have their own board, and they're all spelling as I am. Okay, we have ul so far, and we want to make lip. L, I, p. What sound does the yellow make right now for this word? I. Which letter can spell the sound I? And I might remind them, which letter makes me smile? I have this whole I makes me smile thing. I. So we pull the I down. Okay, so this is gonna help with our next activity. I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna say, let's read what we have so far. We have so far, u, I, li. We have li, not a word yet, not the word we're spelling yet, li. I wanna make lip, and I might tap that last one. Lip, lip. Which letter can represent that sound? And then they're gonna find their P and pull it down. So we segment many times. I want to teach them to repeat the word and segment more than once, because when they're spelling, they're going to also need to do that when they're on their own. And it's important to say the word again, because sometimes they forget the word, and to segment more than once, especially for that middle sound, because often we get this, right? LP. Okay, so now that we do a couple of those, and so here's what we're getting here. It's kind of like another auditory drill in that they're matching the sounds they hear to the letters. So that's helping with letter recognition. We're also working on phoneme segmenting. So that's another skill. And we're working on phoneme blending. So this one activity covers a lot of things, and you can scaffold as needed. So you might have students, if you're doing this with a whole class, you're gonna have those students who can segment on their own. Great, they can be doing that. You can give them time to try to do it on their own first. And you'll have students who can't segment on your own. So you're there to support them in that way by saying, okay, I'll do it first and then you follow me. And for the most part, if these are the letters that you've taught, most of your students then will know these letters. Now, if you want to pull a small group and work with students who know all of their letters or more letters, then you can do that with that group so that they can be building more words. But the cool thing is, even the students that know their whole alphabet, this is still a meaningful lesson for them because they are getting that practice reading and spelling. And they're getting just more automatic, because oftentimes kindergartners know their letters and the most common sounds associated, but they're rarely like automatic at this point in the year. So that is one activity. I can also use this. You could use a pocket chart if you don't have this card thing. You could put these letters in a pocket chart. If you can't really see my board behind me with the camera, but I have letter tiles on my whiteboard, so I can just easy access, use them all the time as a way to engage a group. So next you can focus on just decoding. So we did encoding, and there was a little bit of blending phonemes in that, but now we're gonna work on blending phonemes with letters, which is basically decoding. So I'm gonna pick, again, these are the letters we've learned so far, and I'm going to put out the word, and I'm gonna tell them, I'll show them the whole word, and then I'm gonna say something like, to help us, I'm gonna turn this sound around, because we're gonna focus on just the first two first. And I actually use a sloth, little puppet, and I explain that the sloth likes to take his time, and he wants to make sure that he blends this sound first, and that helps him with decoding, and that's what sloth likes to do. So since Slothy likes to do it, maybe it's helpful, because I find this is the most helpful strategy for decoding for kids who aren't quite there with their blending yet. So you can use a pointer, show your students, and you can say, I'm gonna touch, you're gonna say. So if I touch, they say, l, ah. Now we're gonna put just those together. L, ah, la. What does this say? La. You will have some kids who will kind of put it in there. You know, they'll think lap or lab. They'll like want to say a word. So I have to then go back and train them. This just says la. This just says la so far. Now let's get ready and we'll see the last sound. We have la, and then I'll tap it. Lap. And they usually quickly get it right away because they've already read the la. And so then I'll do some other words, and I might do some chaining, like I can turn lab or lap into lab, and then I can turn that into cab. Ooh. So there we go. So much you can do with just these letters.